100-day magical challenge. I was hoping I might find a little peace and quiet here in the hallway, but it seems like people are going to get busy. It seems like people are going to get busy moving about. The movers and shakers are rattling the chains of the dungeon here. Um, haven't been able to get any consistent time frames for live streaming. That's why it's just sporadic at this point. I got the flock of seagulls going with the hairstyle. That's good. Everybody likes the flock of seagulls. Um, I wanted to address real quick Monsieur Tiedrich's concerns about Grumpy Toonberg. Now, some of you guys might be familiar with Grumpy Toonberg and the New Green Deal. And so, at the level of ideation of people, events, and ideas, right? Number one, the lesser minds, they say, discuss the people involved in things. So even the mention of Grumpy Toonberg brings us down into the low realm of ideation, gossiping about celebrities, right? So if someone's a celebrity, if they're in the public spectrum, you can be pretty well sure they've got a handler and that they're controlled opposition of some kind. Grumpy Toonberg's sourpuss is distasteful, onerous, odious, fulsome. It's not a fun thing to look at, and I'd rather not. She looks like a, a constipated, retarded child that hasn't had her diaper changed in a while. And grumpy, right? She's squatting out a grumpy, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody should have to, right? Nobody should have to be subjected to grumpy Toonberg. Okay, so next on the list is the event, right? So up from her, if we bring it, we try to elevate it into a realm of higher mental ideation and examine it from a level of the events. So one of Jeff's main concerns is the heat wave, but the heat waves and the hot weather, it's the middle of summertime, the doldrums, of course it's going to be hot. And so Jeff's main concern, he said, is that it's hotter than it's been since the 1600s. 400 years is a very short time scale when you think about things on a planetary level. If the mainstream history means anything, hundreds of millions of years of tectonic shift and manifested. It means so little. People's record keeping means almost nil to the grand scheme of things. An individual. So I don't get the whole fear mongering about climate change. Happens 4 times a year. It's called the seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So it's much ado about nothing, honestly. They're they're using it as a ploy to tax people more for less. So that's the real thing behind it. Now let's get into the idea level. So the highest level of in the mental realm, which the dichotomy of the intellectual realm is nice. Good to see you, Miss Mary Moon. I'm glad you're in your new old house, right? You're in a house that's a couple of hundred years old. It's a new dwelling for you, which is fun because you're you're rehabilitating and building on the past, right? So that sounds like something I would definitely like to do. Like I've been cruising around here in old Tartaria, and this is one of the more Tartarian cities of China. Like there are tons of buildings that are supposedly a couple of hundred years old, but in reality are probably, well, they date them to stuff like 1909, 1930, and stuff like that. But that's his story. The reality behind it is that many of these Tartarian buildings are many, many hundreds of years old. Yeah, so it's fun to be around all this old Tartarian architecture. Looks like Nova Scotia, huh? New Scotland. Yeah, every city in the world that hasn't been destroyed, that where they haven't destroyed the old remnants of Tartaria, are like that, right? Mary says Halifax, Nova Scotia is the same. Giant starports, all the same buildings. Yeah, it's really interesting to see. They have a downtown area where, of course, the government has set up shop. Like all of the buildings have been taken over by government entities. Um, no, yeah, don't worry about spelling. I don't pay any attention to it. Um, I read for meaning, not for uh, differences in spelling. As a cosmopolitan individual, you have to do that because everybody spells everything a little different. Like Europeans spell things different than Americans, and so everyone uses kind of a different system. That's never bothered me. As long as I can get to the meaning of the thing, right? The form doesn't matter. Uh, so yeah, I was addressing Jeff's concerns. It's Jeff for some reason has taken on the archetype of Chicken Little, and I don't know why. I love you, Monsieur Tiedrick, but I don't know why you're running around like Chicken Little, yelling the sky is falling because it's right now it's raining here. Let me show you out the window what I'm looking at. So right now it's raining out there, and so the sky is legitimately falling, Jeff. But that's nothing new, man. There's nothing new under the sun. Today's problems are no different than yesterday's problems, no different than tomorrow's problems. The subterfuge of the Green New Deal is what we really need to strike at here. It doesn't matter if Grumpy Toonborg said it or if what was that vice president that ran around singing that same song. I can't remember his name, but Trudeau is using the same ploy, right? The dandy, the guy who does blackface and loves to dress in drag, Monsieur Trudeau up there in New Scotland. Yeah, it seems like he's a noob to a lot of things, right? Like he's just like he hasn't quite figured out that it's all a lie, that everything in the mainstream media is meant to enslave the average man. And number one, their primary objective is to enslave your mind, right? And then their next objective is to impoverish you through carbon taxes and general taxes and make you worry about your diet. You know, don't eat the hamburger when that delicious, tasty beef is one of the best things a human being can eat, right? They make you worry about the amount of sharks in the ocean, and it's like they try to put all of this burden on the average man when it isn't even the average man perpetrating the crime. It's the global elites, like they like to call themselves, and they like to be referred to, right? Grumpy Toonborg is one of the biggest offenders, right? Flying around on jet airplanes and speaking in public venues when she could just sit behind her computer and give her talks. She doesn't need to show her constipated face out in public and make us hate her even more. You know, one of the first things she says when she comes out is let the plebes eat us biscuits, right? That's the whole drive of her message. And I really want to elevate it above the ideation of an individual like Grumpy Toonboard, who hasn't had her diaper changed in quite a few weeks. And even the event, right? Like the heat wave doesn't matter either, man. Just make it through another summer. Who says that you're even promised tomorrow? What does it matter in the long run if if it's a little hotter than it should be? It doesn't spell disaster. What spells disaster is the mismanagement of resources by these folks who are shouting the alarm, right? It's like I go to bathhouses sometimes with the big shots here in the city. And so I was at a Tartarian bathhouse yesterday, and they're literally like wasting hundreds of thousands of gallons of water to take like 4 or 5 showers a day. And most of the big shots, you know, the guys who've got money, they hang out in bathhouses a lot, like private bathhouses, even public bathhouses. But they waste like thousands and thousands of gallons of fresh water every day to wash their ass. And then at the same time, they're telling you to take a 2 minute shower and not use your air conditioner. Yeah, I missed you too, Jeff. I'm glad you're back, bro. So it essentially doesn't matter. We shouldn't get fixated on things that don't matter, right? So the Green New Deal is horseshit. Trudeau is horseshit. Grumpy Toon Board is horseshit. And everyone up there on the soapbox that's yelling at the plebes to get ready to pay $25 a gallon if they want to operate a vehicle is full of horseshit and needs to be taken out and publicly executed. And that's all I biscuits. And to huddle in the pod and eat insects. It ain't gonna happen. Um, the cattle industry, the beef industry, the farmers, they need to be supported. The European farmers, you know, the tractor wars, the truckers, all of these guys need our vote of confidence. And we need to totally denounce the Green New Deal and say, no, we're going to eat the amount of beef that we want to eat. We're going to drive our gas powered vehicles until we come up with a viable alternative. Yeah, we're gonna use our air conditioners. We're gonna do everything we want to do, and there's always going to be more, right? We're gonna kick you out of the Tartarian architecture that you've usurped, and we're gonna put ourselves in there, right? And we're gonna restore the old world, and we're not gonna buy into it because if we collectively buy into it, right, even mentally, and say, oh yeah, maybe that's a possibility. Maybe I should eat less hamburgers this year, you know, then we're being fooled. And fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, shame on me. And so I'm not going to be a shameful person, right? Like Grumpy Toonberg would like to say that I am. And she's right. If I believe her for even a minute, if I entertain her opinion for even a minute, then it is shame on me, right? It is shameful. So that's enough about Grumpy Toonberg. Let's talk about magic. So the magic mind and communicating between the realms of the dreaming world and the waking world. That's the real first gate. It's getting into dreamland with a bit of cognitive awareness and then getting out of dreamland with the sense of the sacred and merging that spiritual enlightenment with your daily activities and being able to get in the flow state of reaching back into the hypnagogic state and see the future and predict outcomes. And what's the real truth of it? The real truth of it is that there's good work to be done every day. And when you bring that lucid dreaming state and the hypnagogic spiritual wine into this mundane reality, and you know, to do things like make breakfast, wash the dishes, take out the trash, whatever you need to get done. And when you do it with a sense of the sacred, then that's when you're doing real magic, right? So let me catch up with the ideas room, because if I'm talking, thinking, then I don't have the opportunity to read and interact. Mary says PMA is business and never once got any fine for no masks. Never this whole. I don't know anything about Grumpy Tombborg. You can run any business out of the public and the private through PMA. It's a legal system, knowing your legal rights. Legalese is that, yeah, it is. Spells to keep people bound. That's right. The pen is mightier than the sword. Boring things, Pisces has to deal with one day. Yeah, that's what the Piscean expression is all about. Yeah, so well, you got to make a distinction between the astral world and the etheric world. The etheric world seems to be that that delineation of preforms which comes most closest to the manifestation of physical reality. I don't confirm or deny anything, Jeff. It's not. I'm not a scientist in that respect. It seems hot, but I'm getting older, and the heat affects me more. That the older you get, the more the heat kind of bothers you. So building good dwellings is important. Having a subterranean chamber that you can retreat to that has good ventilation, and so that you can use geothermal cooling and geothermal heating seems to be something that we should invest more in. And it's interesting too, because a lot of the older technology of Tartaria is locked up by the governments and the banks. Like when I went downtown yesterday, every every Tartarian building in that square was controlled by a bank. And they're all different named banks, but it's all the same system. It's the money funders. And so, like, they move in and they take over the entrances to the catacombs, right? So, all of those Tartarian buildings are sitting on top of a subterranean, subterranean structures like tunnels running all through the cities. And so it's like you don't even allow anyone any access to it. The entire population could go down there and have a wonderful party and hang out and have all kinds of free cooling and have access to an entire underworld. But yeah, so there's definitely criminal behavior going on in the world, and we know who it is. I mean, it's all very obvious. They put their symbols on old world buildings that have been around for hundreds of years and claim them as their own. And then they sit inside these beautiful structures, these mansion-esque old buildings that are filled with dynamic feng shui, like geomancy, that is really perfect for your longevity and good health. And they lord it over the plebes, and they just print money. It's like they're the end all and do all of everything that happens, because they're sitting there, the ones in control of printing the money. And so obviously they're going to prosper. Their families are going to prosper. They build huge gated communities of the labor of the plebes and with the plebes' resources. And then they tell you not to eat any burgers while they're flying around in jet planes. It's just such a farce that there's no reason why we should give them any credit. We need to research and investigate these things down to the very bloodlines that are the ones guilty. Like Trudeau, he should be publicly executed as a bad example, a bad faith example of selling out his nation to an enemy cabal. But it's so, but that's not reasonable either, because it's already a new world order. So that Miss Mary Moon says there are literally hundreds of books about the weather and how luminaries in the sky control all the weather. Hundreds of years of these books, and nobody's reading them and studying them. Yeah, I mean, that's what's the problem right there is there's a huge cover up. Like Monsieur Teacher, you're a classic example of a victim of mainstream mind control, right? You're buying into the stuff they're showing you on television, and you're thinking that there's some reality to it, but there isn't, man. Everything on TV is fake. Everything you're being told is a lie. Everything in the mainstream narrative is subterfuge. So yeah, there's definitely kind of real. Well, in my opinion, I should preface this because YouTube has a tendency to think that someone's actually going to listen to me, and even though my videos only get 10 or 15 views, they think that I'm a threat. That if I'm guilty of a wrong, think that I'm an actual threat to humanity. Um, so I won't talk about it. But Mary knows her shit, Jeff. So pay more attention to Mary and pay less attention to the mainstream media. Pay less attention to the so-called authoritative sources and more attention to someone in your personal circle that could be the voice of reason. If you didn't have a Miss Mary Moon in your life, then there's Dr. John D, right? So maybe I can help be the voice of reason for you, Jeff. It's all a distraction to take away your ideation from improving your own life and enjoying your own good life, right? That's the main thing, too. Like, I know that you, Jeff, you're already a person that has the ability to enjoy life and to work on self cultivation. And so this type of shit, like seeing a constipated little girl tell you not to eat burgers, Jeff, is that going to stop you from opening another delicious bottle of red wine? Or do you feel bad when you open a bottle of red wine and think, oh, the poor world out there, it's suffering so much because I decided to open this wine and enjoy a burger. Okay, have fun, Miss Mary Moon. I'm glad. And good luck with your new dwelling. Do some good magic in that house, right? Commune with the spirits who are already there and set up magical wars so that any type of negative demonic force can't attach itself to you while you're there. Because you got to be careful with those old houses. If there are any poltergeists or demons lurking around, you want to drive them out and let them know that there's a new master in town, that there's a new master magus taking possession of the dwelling, and you're not going to tolerate any horse shit out of any demonic minions. So do your good magic. Um, but yeah, so I was hoping that I could find a little bit of peace and quiet here in the hallway and the stairwell, but there's always people moving about. I'm in a public environment, and so the room, kids and the wife are still sleeping. So I thought I would come out here into the hall and try to do a little live stream and say hello to you, Jeff. I know you've been out there uh, fighting the good fight. I don't honestly know, so probably 4 to 6 structure, but it's been rebuilt over the last 600 years. So it's hard to say like the legitimacy of any of it really, but the Ming Dynasty, that's when the Western powers started coming over here and getting involved on a grander scale, I guess. Um, so yeah, I honestly don't know much about it. I just know that it used to be called Tartary, and people are calling the old world Tartaria now. And Tartaria, in my mind, would be the civilization that inherited the lost technology of Atlantis. And Atlantis would be the civilization that inherited the lost technology of Lemuria, and Mu. So I would think that Mu would be one of the pre-generators, one of the older ones that we could reach back to through oral tradition. So it seems that pictographic languages like old Irish runic language, um, proto languages, and what are the other ones? Phoenician, right? And Greek and those types of things, those languages reach back to Atlantis. And so those are the earliest transmissions we have. Like, well, we're thinking Sumerian clay tablets, right? Cuneiform, that type of thing. Wow, so there's a person called Genny H out in the ideas room that's feeling some electrified starry energy. I'm not aware of what you're talking about. I don't feel anything unusual or different from the day-to-day grind. Genny. Genny, are you new to the chat? Genny, have you ever you subbed the channel? Are you a subscriber to the Frank Monday channel? Did you just randomly wander in here? I'm not. I don't remember ever seeing a Genny H before, but I might be wrong. Is that Jenny or Genny? Yeah. So the general theme I think is that Atlantis is pre-Diluvian and antediluvian, right? So like 8 to 10,000 years ago was the fall of Atlantis. Some say it was only a couple of thousand years ago, right? So 8 to 10,000 years ago, I'm thinking. And then the Great Pyramids would be built before that, at or around that time. So the Great Pyramids, 8 to 10,000 years ago, Pumapunka, Tiwanaku, those types of things. And then there was a great cataclysm. So a cataclysm reset, most occurred anywhere from 8 to 10,000 years ago, the great floods. And that was a water event. Okay, Jin as in Jin, Jenny H. Okay, Jin. Good to see you, Jen. I didn't know that you were a follower. I've never seen that you have commented on a video before. So if you ever see a video that you like and in the future, try to leave comments. I'm very sensitive to astral energies. And yes, I'm a follower. Yeah, so I'm learning all about it through Hermetics. So Hermetics is the pseudo-Egyptian study of the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus through Henry Cornelius Agrippa and other members of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor from 15th century to 19th century. So we have about a 400-year window after at around the time of the French Enlightenment and he went through a dark period with the Inquisitions when there was much book burning. Okay, yeah, it's fine to be quiet, but I like the interaction. I like to get to know people. I consider the transmission of the dark mirror to be some of my work in the astral etheric dimensions, right? Obviously, most of it is just mental, right? So within the mental realm, but we are using an old technology, right? Imagine that I'm just holding a black mirror, a dark mirror in my hand, and I'm able to transmit through all time and space in every direction and dimension with this device. So it's a very interesting thing. I had visions of these devices when I was just a boy, and I knew that this technology would be available to us in future. And so now I'm trying to master it, and I don't get any love from the algorithms, but I try to encourage people to participate by hitting the thumbs up. So we've already had 4 or 5 viewers come in and out of the live chat, and nobody's hit the button yet. All right. So yo, give me a yo if you can hear me. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up, Jenny H. I appreciate that. Um, I'm getting ready to do a Gorisha ritual. I'm really good at angelic magic, but now it's time for defensive magic. I hit the thumbs up. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to learn about goetic magic myself. Um, as you guys may know, I'm a student of Poke Runyon. So thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm a student of Poke Runyon, but I'm a longtime student of esoteric. So I've been doing Qigong and Kung Fu since I was a young man, right? I started with Japanese systems as a kid and learned, like spirit shouting. And I thought, hey, there's really got to be something to this. And then uh, okay, a Martinist. I'll have to look that up. I don't know what a Martinist is. Um, so like when my mom was a manager of a bookstore when I was like 13 to 15 years old. And so I started purloining all these 19th century writers on magic. And I'll tell you about one of my first experiences with real magic. I mean, I had done other little things as a kid, like tap to it naturally, but I consider myself to be a natural magus. And so I'm a natural magician. I discovered magic on my own through Kung Fu. Kung Fu is a really good way to train the visualization process because a lot of it has to do with will and intention. And then, I didn't see your comment, Frank. Let me finish my thought though. So I discovered that magic is essentially three things, right? It's Volantia, decreeism, and Possism. And so, learning natural magic as a kid, I came across what was actually at the time it was framed as it was called Arthur Edward Wyatt's Book of Black Magic, which wasn't true. Later, it was renamed the Complete Book of Ceremonial Magic, right? But the one I had a cover on it. I forget which, maybe it was Falcon Press, but it was a 1910, I think is when it was published. So it was a 20th century edition, and it was called the Complete Book of Ceremonial Magic. And I read it as a 13-year-old boy, and I had already been doing kung fu, trying to learn the ideas of mental psionics, right, mind magic. And I thought I was really studying it for like 6 months or something. And I opened it up one day and I was standing in the hall and I thought to myself, is all of this really necessary? Like the robe, like everything seemed so unachievable. Like all of the things he told you to get to do a spell, right? Like you needed a giant cauldron and you had to put a black cat into boiling water and curse it every time it screamed and then pull its thigh bone out of the brew. And you had to do this under a certain alignment of a certain star, right? And under the dark moon, and all of these things. And you had to wear virgin wool, and you had to fast for 10 days, saying this specific prayer, 77 times a day. And I was like, what the fuck? And I thought, is all of this really necessary to get the magic to work for you? And my young mind, my young impressionable mind, I thought, no. I thought if magic is real, number one, and I think it is real, then all of this flowery horse shit, wearing the robe and holding the wand and saying the incantation, I thought none of that is necessary. I thought I could visualize all of those things in my mind and not do any of them. I could just visualize them. And that should be enough. I thought, if the magic's real, and I know it is real, then it should respond to me going through the process visually without getting the robe and murdering the cat. I thought, I don't need to do any of that. I need to be diligent and have a firm intent that the magic will work. And so I chose one of the spells and I read through the entire thing. I memorized it word for word. I memorized the incantation. I never vocalized it, right? I just went through the entire thing in a mental process. And right when I did that, and I had that thought, I had the thought, I'll tell you guys the thought process, right? I had the thought, if magic is real, and I believe it is real, then this should work just by me doing it from intention and visualization. And then, like a golden light appeared in my mind. And the golden light was not just in my mind, it was all around me. It was in the hall, it was in my bedroom. It was really the sun's light shining in from outside. And so I went down and I laid down to take a nap. And I thought, yeah, that shit works. And I was really supercharged. And I woke up. The golden light woke me up like 20 or 30 minutes later. I felt totally refreshed. And I went out of my window. I didn't even go out the door. I went out my window and I went on this little adventure. And I followed the golden light everywhere it would lead me. And to the, it led me to what the magic spell was supposed to grant me. It was supposed to grant me. I'm not going to tell you guys the exact specifics because it's a little bit private, and it's one of my magical experiences that I had when I was really young. And to tell you like all of the specific details is just a little bit too revealing. But I'll tell you, if you look through that book that I just mentioned, then you'll probably be able to figure out pretty quickly which spell a young man would want to do. Anyway, the golden light led me all of the way, and I've experienced this golden light several times in fulfilling a magic round, and it happened. It wasn't the same day. I think it was like 3 days later, right? But it was angelic. Yeah, it was no, it was angelic. I did the magic openly in front of God and the angels. I invoked the angels into the quarters. I learned the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and it was a very low level magic spell, but it worked. And it didn't require. So here's the takeaway. What's the takeaway? Learning the ceremonial application of the magic and learning the principles of Hermetic science are safeguards. They're parameters that you put in place. Like the only thing that requires, like, if it takes 30 seconds or 3 days, is your own resistance to magical fruition, right? It can happen spontaneously. Like you can blink your eyes and lightning will strike, right? It can happen that fast. You can have the intention to make lightning appear, and it can happen in the blink of an eye. Or it could take 30 seconds, it could take 3 days, it could take 3 weeks, it could take 3 years, it could take some people 30,000 lifetimes. So, what's the real takeaway? The takeaway is that learning magic step by step is just setting up safeguards, parameters to protect yourself and others so that your whole material world doesn't just explode into chaos. Okay, let me catch up with the chat. I just wanted to finish that thought and give an expression, give a voice to what I was thinking. Um, so I was inspired to tell you guys that tale of young magic because of Jenny. Okay, I think we lost Jeff, guys. Please remember to hit the thumbs up, guys. I noticed that some people don't like to hit the thumbs up because it adds to YouTube. It goes into a file, all of your liked videos, and I think some people feel that's a little bit more than they want to do. But yeah, if it's not too much trouble, please do hit the goose button. Yeah, let me try to get back in here. I am currently reading The Ideas Room. Okay, so I was getting to know Jenny. Jenny's doing a goetic ritual. And like I said, I don't know a lot about goetic magic, but I do know that it's a part of the Temple of Astarte's training process. But I haven't arrived at that level yet. I'm just a neophyte, guys. Um, I'm just a beginner. Hi, Frank. Did you see my comment regarding the Atlantic cataclysm? No, I didn't. Was the cataclysm an asteroid? I don't know. I don't know. Was it? You guys probably know more about it than me. You might call me a Martinist. That's where I left off. I am a Seraphina. I don't know any of that stuff. That's jargon beyond my ken, Jenny. I don't know what a Martinist is, and I don't know what a Seraphina is either. Okay, so Miss Mary Moon's back after walking her dogs, and she says, Jenny comments like me, kind of. The moon is exactly square Mercury right now. A moon Sagittarius Mercury, 4 degrees, both of them. The energy is awesome tonight. Square with those two is ultra stimulated mind. Indeed, it's definitely a buzzing night for those two alone. Hi, Jenny. When's your birthday? I love Hermeticism. I love theology. I'm March 10th, 77. Frank and I are very similar, both Pisces, Sun, Scorpio moons. I can't tell anyone my birthday. I'm sorry. I'm a Cancer. Too many sickness hurt me like a dog. I'm reading The Golden Dawn by Greer right now. I'm not familiar with The Golden Dawn by Greer. I'm not familiar with Greer. Cedar, sage, sweetgrass. I do salt around the house. Yeah, good. Yeah, I was talking about protecting your house with magic, Mary. Keep away the bad guys. Yeah, and demonic spirits and ghosts and stuff, they don't bother people who cultivate themselves. Like, I'm constantly looking for, I'm interested in paranormal phenomena and stuff. And most of the time, it just doesn't occur because I do my spiritual training and, lower level ghostly entities, they're not interested in bothering me because they know I can drink them down like a quick shot of whiskey. They would never bother me. Yeah, that's right. Mary said it right. The real black magic is the legalese and the medical system. That's right. Uh, yeah, Jeff wandered off into the abodes of twilight there for a moment. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more about that story just to make it a little more interesting. So after I had done that magic, and I was like, magic is real. I know it's real. It works. And so if I just do the spell mentally without any of the robes or anything, I said it'll work just fine. And so I woke up and a spirit, actually one of the spirits somehow associated with it, maybe just one of my own spirits as well, but associated with the magic I cast woke me up and was actually communicating with me and said it's time to go. And so I started following this golden light. I jumped out the window, and at each step of the event, the encounter, like when I had some fear, um, spirit inside me. It was like it would even manifest as like another entity with me. And I thought that I had gone with a friend. Later on, in retrospect, I remember that like Fight Club, right? And Tyler Durden, there was nobody else there with me. It was just me. But I always felt like I had a little companion with me, and was counseling me and saying, go for it. And I was like, I had run across, like, I went to the park. I'll tell you a little bit about it. And the prize was there. And I was like, there's the prize. That's exactly what I wanted to manifest. But there were like 6 Latino gangsters, like Mexicans with like tattoos and like yoked dudes that were standing there protecting the treasure. And I was like, fuck, how am I going to just like walk up and take the prize with all these like badass LA ghetto gangsters hanging around protecting it. And the little spirit that was with me, like the little voice inside me, and like it manifested like as a little dude or something. He's like, man, don't be scared. Just walk up there and do it. Show them what a big badass you are. And I'm like, I'm not a big badass. So I'm like, I'm just a little dude. And the spirit is like, don't be scared, essay, just do it. And so I just walked up to him and I'm like, hey guys, what's going on, man? What's up? And they're like, man, they're like, you got a lot of balls walking up here. You're like, you're a little white dude and you just walk up to like six hardcore, like mafia style like gangsters. They're like, aren't you scared of us, bro? And I'm like, no, why should I be? And they're like, because you're a white dude, we could wipe the floor with you, essay. They were like sporting guns and shit. And I'm like, nah, man, I just wanted to see what was up. And they're like, well, why are you here, man? Why did you walk up? And I'm like, that stuff on the table right there. I'm like, that's mine. And they're like, what do you mean it's yours, man? It's like, that's ours, bro. You're crazy, bro. And I'm like, no, man. I just told them I was surprised right there on the table. I need to take it and enjoy it. And they're like, really? They're like, okay, man, okay. They're like, yeah, go ahead, man, it's yours. Take it. And I grabbed it and I'm like, and they're like, now what are you gonna do with it, Esther? I'm like, I'm gonna go enjoy it. And they're like, okay, bro, okay. They're like high fiving me and shit. I just walked off with it and I had it and I had the prize in hand. And again, I'm not gonna tell you the specific details, but it's just so funny to like relive that in my mind and like recount the entire, because I mean, how fucking magical is that, right? The spirits led me there, the intention, they aligned everything, but at the same time, they put up this huge barrier, this big challenge of these like bulldog dudes, like all tattooed up and like sporting gats and shit, and like just hanging out in the park, and like the prize was just sitting among them. And I guess it was the way of the spirit world testing me to see if I really had the balls to do magic. And I made it past that. I made it past that test. I guess I did. I don't know. Maybe they shot me down in the park. Maybe they whooped my little ass, and I never made it through. But no, I did. I made it through. Mucho grande huevos, Santos Vato. Yeah, that was what was going on, man. It was beautiful. And the other beautiful thing about it, like once I once I talked to those guys and like they just they were beautiful people, like they were gangsters, and they were all tatted up and they were like hardcore vatos or whatever, but like the love in their eyes, like upon seeing me and seeing that I had the balls to approach them and tell them that. And they were like, wow. And they were true believers too. Yeah, I mean, you may not know this, but like the Mexicans and the really hardcore coyotes and like those drug runners and stuff, they have deeply held spiritual beliefs. And they're some of the most superstitious people will encounter. And so like a little dude, a little young man walking up and telling them a story like that, that's just the kind of horse shit they love. That's just the kind of thing that would convince them that there was a reality to it, that there was truth in it. Okay. Yeah, so that was a fun time. That was a good experience with magic. So why do magic and why learn it then? If that's right, they were members of that cult. But so here's the thing. What do the magical texts, what do the manuscripts do, what does the ceremony do, what does the banishing ritual of the pentagram do? All of those are safeguards to protect you, and if you've done them correctly, there is protection. But imagine if I had just walked up there without having done the magic and been led there by the spirits and tried that same horse shit, and said, hey guys, I'm here, that I'm going to take that golden illuminated prize on the picnic table that you are standing around guarding, with like you're like armed bodyguards of the golden light. And here you are with it, just hanging out in the park, and you're enjoying it. I can see that, but I'm going to take it away. That never would have flown. They would have gunned me down, or been at least a fight. They would have just told me to fucking hit the road or something. But having done the magic, it set up the parameters for the fruition of that magical intent. And so that's the real takeaway, is that learning the magic is like doing your kung fu. It's something that you got to put in the work. You got to put in the hard knocks. You got to put in the daily ritual. You got to put in the fasting and the incantations. And yeah, like you said, Jenny, sometimes it just won't work. You have to find what works for you, and you have to practice daily. Like Israel Regardi says in the Garden of Pomegranates, he says, inflame yourself with prayer and invoke often. You just have to keep doing it. And like Kung Fu, so how is magic like Kung Fu? It's that you sometimes you doubt it and you feel like it's not working, but you do the practice anyway. But over a long time, like dripping water, it wears away stone and it builds up over time. Like I did this one practice, it's a qigong practice to make lightning appear in the sky, and it's a very specific thing. That's its only one of its only goals is retention of energy in the body for spiritual immortality. But really, one of the gateway events is to make lightning appear. And I did that one practice every day for 9 years straight without missing a day in order to make it happen. 9 years. The technique is called Ume Shenshu, and it's one I learned when I was like 15 or 16 at a internal arts kung fu school, and I learned it in an old Taoist book. And then I met another kung fu practitioner who had done it, and he taught it to me correctly. And I did that same practice. And you got to have some pretty powerful resolve to do a single routine ritual practice, qigong exercise every day for 9 years straight before it finally came to fruition. And like it says in the text, it can take you 30 seconds or it can take you 30 years. For me, that particular ritual required 9 years. I read later on, after I had already done it and gotten the magical result, right? Saw the lightning flash and so on. Master Nee said the same thing. He said, on average, this ritual will take you 9 years to complete. And I was like, wow. And I had already been there and done that. And I was like, wow. And, Master Nee reinforced it in one of his books. And I was like, yeah, bro, it does. And so you'll find that information, you'll find that confirmation if you do the ritual. I never would have come across that passage in Master Nee's book had I not already done the work. And, or maybe I would have, but I wouldn't have recognized it. I would have been like, oh, 9 years, that sounds like a long time, right? But it's not really. 9 years goes by in a flash of an eye. Already like 49. So 9 and 40, it goes by pretty fast. Well, everyone has to decide their own level of involvement, right, Jenny? I do the pentagram ritual every day. I do it pretty quick though. I don't necessarily get the robes on and go run around in the courtyard and do it. I do it mostly astrally in the morning, and I do the middle pillar, and I do ritual work. I do the invocation of total integration every day. I do the 4 adorations every day. There are certain things that I do every day. There are certain neophyte grade rituals that I think are highly instrumental. And once you've done the lesser pentagram ritual, yo, give me the yos if you're still there. Looks like I lost connection to the internet. Anyway, guys, we're approaching bottom of the hour, so I'm getting a bunch of shit to do. Uh, my mundane obligations are calling to me. So what was I saying? I'll finish on this note. Um, Magic helps with cutting through the angst and anxiety of waiting, mostly, because that's a lot of it. It's like Volantia, the intent to get something done, is pure and forthright and very aggressive in reaching out. Then the second part of it, decreeism, making a decree, making a sigil, writing a magical command, or going through the visualization project to make magic happen. That's the decree part. Then the last part of it is possession, the possession, taking possession of the fruition, right? So imagine like planting an acorn with the result, with the intent of getting enough wood to build a cabin. So you plant an acorn, that's the Volantia, the acorn is the Volantia. The decreeism is putting it in the ground. So you have the acorn, that's the E, the intent. The decreeism is digging the hole, putting it in the ground, and putting water on it. The possession part, that's the growth of the tree. And you could let that tree grow into a huge oak of 500 years before you harvest it, the final fruition. So the possession is the process, right? But arriving at a 500-year-old oak and then harvesting it, that I just imagine the length of time. So the magic is cutting through that. It's getting right to the acorn and realizing that the E, holding the acorn, that's having the magical potency, the the potency, the potential to do great work, right? But then you have to decree, you have to put it in the ground, and then you have to possess, you have to wait. And the whole process, that whole process is the magic, right? Watching it from start to finish. Yeah, and so that's just where I'm going to end it, right? Oaks don't grow overnight, man, but you can certainly come upon an old growth field where you can harvest, and you should harvest, and you should be the one to harvest. But you're going to have the tools and the know-how to put those things, and they'll get done without you anyway. You're given. And when you really cultivate the higher levels of angelic magic, you realize that you don't have to do any of it. You don't have to go after any of those baubles. But at the same time, you can and you should. You know, you should have yourself a tasty burger while you're here. You know, smoke one of those delicious cigarettes, brew a tasty cup of coffee, and get involved. Fall in love, get married, have children, build a house, conquer a nation, execute a troublesome prime minister publicly, because it's all good fun and it's all theater when it comes right down to it, right? And I hope y'all good looking sexy people stay well out in happy land. I'm signing off for today. Please hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the tales of sojourning the realms of magic. And stay tuned for more, man. We're here in Old Tartaria. It doesn't look like we're leaving anytime soon. We haven't even met with the guy I've come to see. Thank you, Jenny. I enjoy you as well. I enjoy you guys participating. Yeah, when things get too hot, Russian lad, you're hit the tail end. So I can't address the ideas room anymore, but I will give a shout out to everyone. Jenny H, I appreciate you being there. Thank you for participating. I'm going to learn more about Goetia in the coming years, but I'm in no hurry, man. I'm in no hurry to get done. Russian lad, good to see you, sir. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for stopping by and tuning in. Monsieur Tiedrick, always good to see you, sir. Miss Mary Moon, it's a pleasure to see you, my dear. And I'm really happy that you got yourself a new house. Hundreds of boxes to unpack, man. That's good fun. Take your time unpacking all those boxes, Mary. Don't get in a big hurry. Um, like one of my old flute teacher used to tell me. I'm gonna tell you guys about my flute teacher next time I do a live stream, because that guy knew magic, man. He was a high-level magical practitioner, a Chinese guy here in Old Tartaria that taught me how to play the flute. But I want to give it, the 30, 40 minutes I need to tell you about one event that I experienced with that old magician. He was a real dynamite guy, man, in his 70s. And he teaches children how to play the flute. Well, he teaches all kinds of musical instruments. He teaches pipa, he teaches piano, he teaches traditional Chinese woodwind instruments. That's his forte. But that guy, man, that guy could make magic happen. All right, I think I'm caught up with the chat. Yes, Jeff, I saw all of your comments and I responded to each and every one of them. If you didn't catch my response, go back and rewatch the video. All right, y'all good looking sexy people. Stay well out in Happy Land. I will see you in the abodes of the future. As Hermes Trismegistus says, as above, so below, as within, as without. I love y'all good looking sexy people. Ad Astra and do good magic. Until next time, Frank Monday signing off from Old Tartaria. From Old Tartaria. From Old Tartaria.